Hello, and welcome. This is a summary of Jiddu Krishnamurti's powerful book, Freedom from the Known. This summary is designed to be listened to be absorbed. It is an invitation to a journey of self-discovery. The book does not offer new beliefs or philosophies. Instead, it asks us to put aside everything we think we know, and to look at ourselves and the world with fresh eyes. It is a guide to breaking free from the patterns of the past, from the known, and discovering a reality that is immediate, alive, and ever new. So find a quiet space, listen, and let's explore together. The foundation: understanding ourselves. Throughout the ages, human beings have been searching for something more than just material comfort. We have called it by many names: God, truth, reality. It is a timeless state, a sense of peace that cannot be disturbed by life's chaos. We look at the world, with its wars, its divisions of religion and nationality, the brutality and the confusion, and we ask, what is the meaning of it all? What am I supposed to do? Not finding a clear answer, we have often turned to faith in a savior, an ideal, a nation. But faith, Krishnamurti points out, often breeds violence. We accept a code of conduct, a set of rules given to us by our society, our religion, our family. We look to others to tell us what is right and wrong. As a result, our thinking and our actions become mechanical, automatic. We become second-hand people, living on the words and descriptions of others. We are filled with information, but our lives remain shallow and empty, because we have not discovered anything for ourselves. The traditional path to finding truth has always been to control ourselves, to conform to a pattern, to suppress our desires, and torture our minds and bodies. But a mind that is broken and tortured cannot find truth, it can only find what its own distortion creates. So, there must be a different way. The traditional approach looks from the outside in. Krishnamurti suggests that it is possible to explode from the center. This begins when we reject all spiritual authority, all gurus, saviors, rituals, and dogmas, not as a reaction, but because we understand their immaturity. When we do this, we find ourselves standing alone. This can feel unsettling, but it is the first step. For in that state, we are no longer seeking. And the first thing to learn is this: not to seek. The answer to life's great questions cannot be found in any book or from any person. The answer lies in understanding yourself. To understand yourself is the beginning of wisdom. And what is the self? It is the entire history of humanity written within you. You are not just an individual, separate from the rest, you are the result of all human experience. You are greedy, envious, aggressive, and anxious, but you also have moments of joy and affection. While we have progressed outwardly, from the cart to the jet plane, inwardly, we have not changed at all. The chaos in the world is a reflection of the chaos within ourselves. We are each responsible for every war because our own lives are aggressive and selfish. Only when we realize this deeply, not just as an idea, but as a fact, will we be able to act. Truth has no path. The living truth is what you are, your anger, your brutality, your despair. To understand this truth, you must look at yourself without any ideology, without any screen of words, hopes, or fears. This means you cannot depend on anyone. There is no guide, no teacher, no authority. There is only you, and your relationship with the world. When you realize this, all self-pity, all blaming of others, disappears. The question then becomes, can you bring about a total revolution within yourself, without any outside influence? This is not a search for a method. Any system to bring about change only creates another authority, and therefore, another conflict. To change, you must first reject all authority, especially the authority of your own past experiences and knowledge. When you throw off this burden, you will have a tremendous amount of energy. That energy, which is free from fear, is itself the mutation, the revolution. When there is this freedom, this energy, there is love. And when there is love, you can do what you will, because it will never create conflict. The inner world, conditioning, pleasure, and fear. To understand ourselves, we must first be aware that we are conditioned. From the moment we are born, we are shaped by our culture, nationality, family, religion, and every experience we have. Our responses are automatic. Even when we look at a tree, the word tree comes between us and the actual seeing of it. You discover your conditioning when you are challenged, when there is a disturbance in your life. When you lose money, or your partner looks at someone else, or you are faced with uncertainty, then you see how conditioned you are. The usual response is to either get used to the disturbance, which makes the mind dull, or to escape from it through entertainment, ideology, or beliefs. We are afraid of what is, and we are afraid of the unknown. But to understand a fact, you must look at it, not run away from it. Seeing the danger of our conditioning is not an intellectual concept, it must be seen as directly as you would see a snake in your path. When you see the danger immediately, you act. Therefore, seeing is acting. When you give your total attention to your conditioning, you are free from it. It simply falls away. Our consciousness is the total field of our being, but we live in just one small corner of it. We are fragmented beings. We are one person at the office and another at home. We talk of peace but are violent in our hearts. To see yourself, you must see the totality, not just the fragments. And you can see the totality of yourself only when you look without time, immediately. This requires total attention, where you give your whole being to the act of looking. In that state of attention, there is no fear, no contradiction, and therefore no conflict. A major part of our inner world is the constant pursuit of pleasure. We believe that pleasure will bring us happiness, but pleasure inevitably brings pain, sorrow, and fear. Pleasure and pain are two sides of the same coin, you cannot have one without the other. Pleasure arises when thought takes hold of a delightful experience and demands its repetition. You see a beautiful sunset, and for a moment, there is just joy. But then thought comes in and says, I must have this experience again tomorrow. It is this demand for repetition that turns joy into pleasure, and the struggle to repeat it turns pleasure into pain. Thought is the response of memory, it is always old. Therefore, pleasure is always derived from the old, never from the new. Joy is in the present moment, it is the immediate perception of beauty without the demand for its continuation. Where there is the search for pleasure, there is fear, the fear of not getting what you want, or of losing what you have. Fear is one of our greatest problems. A mind caught in fear lives in confusion and conflict. We are afraid of so many things, of being a failure, of what people think, of pain, of death, of loneliness. And our primary response to fear is to run away from it, to escape. But escaping from fear only increases it. Fear is created by thought. At this very moment, as you are listening, you are probably not afraid. Fear arises when thought projects into the future, imagining what might happen, or dwells on a painful memory from the past. Thought creates a division between the present moment and a future that might be dangerous. This movement from the known certainty of the present to an unknown uncertainty of the future is what we call fear. To be free from fear, the mind must live completely in the present. This requires understanding the structure of thought itself. When you are confronted with something directly and immediately, there is no fear. It is only when thought comes in that fear begins. The core of the problem is that the observer, the one who says, I am afraid, believes he is separate from the thing he fears. But is the observer different from the fear itself? When you look deeply, you find that the observer is the fear. You are not separate from your qualities. You are fear. When this is realized, not just intellectually, but as a total fact, there is no division and no conflict. The energy that was wasted in fighting fear is released. And then, fear comes completely to an end. The nature of relationship, love, and freedom. Violence is deeply ingrained in us. It is not just about killing, it is in a sharp word, a gesture of dismissal, in obedience out of fear. It is violence when you separate yourself from the rest of mankind by calling yourself a Christian, a Hindu, an American, or an Arab. This separation breeds conflict. To understand violence, you cannot justify or condemn it. You must look at it without any judgment. Our relationships with others are typically based on images. A husband has an image of his wife, and she has an image of him, and it is these two images that have a relationship, not the actual human beings. These images are built from memories of pleasure and pain, from insults and flattery. As long as we have these images, we can never truly meet another person. The image creates a space between people, and in that space, conflict is born. So, what is love? The word has been so corrupted that it has almost lost its meaning. We say we love God, our country, our family. But is it love when it is tied to pleasure, desire, jealousy, and possession? When you say, I love my wife, what does it mean? It often means you depend on her for comfort, for pleasure, for security. When she turns away, you feel jealousy, anger, and hatred. This is not love. When you love, there must be freedom, not only for the other person but for yourself. Love is not a product of thought, it is not of the past. Love is active, in the present. It does not obey. Where there is love, there is no duty, no responsibility, no comparison. When you truly love your children, you don't prepare them to fit into a corrupt society that perpetuates war, you care for them as you would a delicate plant. Sorrow and love cannot exist together. Sorrow is created by thought, by clinging to the past. Love is not the opposite of hate, just as humility is not the opposite of vanity. It comes into being only when all the things that are not love, fear, dependence, jealousy, possessiveness, are washed away, not by force, but by understanding them. Love is a state of being where there is a total self-abandonment, a passion without motive. And what of freedom? True freedom is not freedom from something, like being free from a particular fear or dogma. That is merely a reaction, which sets up a new pattern. Freedom is a state of mind, a sense of being completely alone. This is not the isolation of building a wall around yourself. It is a solitude in which the mind is free from the past, from all the conditioning and memories it has accumulated. To be alone in this way is to be innocent. An innocent mind is always fresh, young, and alive, and only such a mind can see what is true. Freedom is not achieved through time. You cannot become free gradually. It must be instantaneous. This happens when you see that the division between living and dying is false. We are afraid of death because we cling to the known, our memories, our possessions, our identities. But to live fully, one must die psychologically every minute, die to yesterday's pleasures, hurts, and knowledge. When you die to the known, you are in a constant state of renewal. Freedom from the known is death, and in that death, you are truly living. The way of seeing, observation, and the silent mind. The key to this entire transformation lies in the art of seeing and listening. To look at a tree, a person, or your own anger, without the screen of your thoughts, your prejudices, your memories, is one of the most difficult things to do. When you look with complete attention, with your whole being, you will find that there is no observer, no me who is looking. There is only the state of attention. In that state, the space between you and what you observe disappears. When that space dissolves, you are in a state of love and beauty. This brings us to a crucial insight: the observer is the observed. The I who looks at anger is made up of past experiences and memories of anger. The observer who is afraid is himself composed of thoughts of fear. The thinker is not separate from his thoughts. The experiencer is not separate from his experience. This is not an idea to be identified with, it is a reality to be perceived directly. When the mind realizes that the observer is the observed, the division within itself ceases. The conflict ends. All the energy that was wasted in fighting oneself is liberated. This state of awareness is meditation. True meditation is not a technique or a system. It is not about controlling thought or concentrating on an idea. That only creates more conflict. Meditation is to be aware of every thought, every feeling, without judging it as right or wrong, but simply watching it and moving with it. This choiceless awareness of what is, from moment to moment, is meditation. It can happen on a bus, while walking, or while listening to the song of a bird. Out of this awareness comes silence. This is not the silence that occurs when a noise stops. It is a silence in which the mind has emptied itself of the past. It is a living silence, full of energy. The religious mind is not one that believes in a particular religion or dogma. A religious mind is one that is in this state of silence, free from fear and belief, seeing only what is. In this silence, there is an energy that is boundless because there is no friction to limit it. Friction is created by the division between the me and the not me, the observer and the observed, thought and reality. When that division ends, energy flows without conflict. This is the energy needed for a total revolution in the psyche. This mutation in the mind is not a matter of time or gradual change. It must happen now. We cannot look to anyone else to tell us what to do. The answers lie within ourselves. Nobody on earth or in heaven can save you but yourself. This requires tremendous honesty, to see yourself exactly as you are, without any ideals or principles. When you give your whole being to understanding your life, to seeing what actually is and going beyond it, then the other, that which is love, truth, beauty, comes into being. It cannot be invited or sought after. The mind is too small and life too confused to invite such an immensity. You cannot know it, for the moment you say, I know, you have lost it. All you can do is leave the window open. This doesn't mean waiting or being passive. It means understanding the prison of the known, and in that very understanding, the prison dissolves. The freedom you have been seeking was there all along, hidden under the layers of everything you thought you knew. To be free from the known is to enter a different dimension of existence altogether. And that is where life truly begins.